Looks like the bear market has been put on pause for a little bit. Last week, we got bullish news about BlackRock applying for an ETF. Then, over the weekend, we get word that Fidelity is also looking at a possible ETF or a purchase of Grayscale. And then today, we end up learning that Deutsche Bank out of Germany is looking to apply for a crypto custody service. Welcome back, everyone. Look at this. 3 Hopium episodes in a row. Look at that, right? This is starting to feel like a bull market, isn't it? Starting to feel like one. Anyways, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's dive into this story and see what we can't extrapolate from this messaging. Here we go. Deutsche Bank applies for license to operate crypto custody service. Now, of course, I'm going to throw in my own opinion, which is, it's not a crypto custody service. They're really just going to be looking for Bitcoin, to custody Bitcoin. But more importantly, I just want to bring to everyone's attention that this was a similar path that Fidelity took. The first step that they took was researching the environment. And then the next step that they took was creating a custody service. So I'm not saying Deutsche Bank is taking a page out of the Fidelity Investments playbook, but maybe it's one of those situations where in the corporate world where they like to say lessons learned. So Deutsche Bank looked at Fidelity and said, you know what, their path seemed to work pretty well. Maybe we should use the same path. Anyways, that's just my opinion. I don't have any evidence for that. It just seems that way based on the movement. Anyways, let's continue into the story. Deutsche Bank, the $1.4 trillion German asset manager, which with regard to regulation of the sector has applied for a regulatory license to operate the cryptocurrency custody service. As we know, in the US, there have been several lawsuits implemented by the SEC against major crypto exchanges, including Binance and Coinbase. It seems that almost everyone, in one way or other, is trying to delve into the sector, while the United States, according to some, is implementing a real war against cryptocurrencies. I'm going to pause there because I think that that's absolute bullshit. And the reason why I think that that's bullshit is because I come from the premise that we're all watching a story, okay? We're all watching kind of like a story, a movie play out, and essentially everybody plays their roles. Now, of course, you can disagree with me. Why not? You know what I mean? I'm not claiming that I'm right. I'm just claiming that this is what seems plausible to me. Okay, so we watch this story where the U.S. is putting tons of pressure on specifically Coinbase and Binance. And of course, there's a whole bunch of other smaller players that we don't really care about. Let's totally forget about Silicon Valley Bank, right? Let's forget about Signature Bank. Let's just forget about all that stuff. Or maybe not, right? Because if we zoom out and we take a look at what's happening, let's look at the story, right? All the big players, or a good portion of the up-and-coming players in the crypto space, have all of a sudden been handicapped. Strange. And look who's there. Look who's there with the infrastructure and the rails to come in and offer similar, if not the same services. Look at that. BlackRock, Fidelity, Deutsche Bank. Really? This is exactly what I said. I've been saying this for a really long time in a few different episodes, but this is no surprise. This is no surprise at all. Guys, if you think that you're watching coincidences happen and people just identifying, good investment opportunities, that's not what's happening, okay? The big players, the Deutsche Banks, the BlackRocks, all of these, they've been watching this sector. They see how much opportunity there is specifically in fleecing noobs. So they're here, and they are now going to set themselves up for the next bull run. Again, my opinion only. That's just based on, what I've seen. I could be wrong, and time will prove that, right? Time will prove whether I'm right or wrong. It's not about me being right or wrong. It's about what's accurate and what's actually happening. So let's see how this plays out, and I will continue with the article. The bank pointed out that the coronavirus pandemic has accelerated the use of digital payments over cash, and this trend will eventually lead to CBDCs replacing cash. Again, more signal. Now here we are. Deutsche Bank is talking about CBDCs. According to Marion Labor, macro strategist at Deutsche Bank, many countries are lagging behind in their progress toward digital currencies. China and Sweden, for example, are leading the development of digital currencies. If other countries do not adapt, they may be forced to adopt other countries' digital currencies and payment policies as a necessary measure for their businesses, Labor said. I'm going to just throw this in. I believe that is by design. I think that is exactly what they want. I don't believe that it is desirable to have multiple CBDCs all over the world. So, I mean, of course, I do think that in the beginning, that is how it's going to start. But anyways, we'll see. Let's continue. According to Labor of Deutsche Bank, developed nations face two key challenges in issuing and adopting CBDCs: low interest rates and culture norms on privacy. Labor argues that CBDCs could be useful in the current environment of negative real interest rates. Now, we're going to pay very special attention to what's being said here, because this is very tricky stuff, right? They don't want... I believe that these architects of CBDCs, the central bankers, the government, they want to make sure that the messaging is clear, and they don't want you to think that your money could be losing value overnight whenever they determine it. Consumers have little incentive to deposit or save money, so it is unlikely that there will be a massive transfer of money from mattresses to short-term bank accounts. Considering that bank accounts offer low interest rates, a CBDC could facilitate disintermediation of the banking system by allowing people to hold their funds directly with the central bank. What? So hold on a second. Did this just become clearer? Did they really just say, listen, the regional banks can't afford to give you a really good interest rate, so you can hold your funds directly with the central bank? Notice the central bank, there's no mention that the central bank will offer you a desirable interest rate, right? And not to mention the fact that that interest rate could change at any time, and not to mention the fact that, as we already know, more dollars could be added to the money supply at any time. So that interest rate can be completely offset by the money printing and by inflation. It doesn't even mean anything. But notice that they're putting the idea, right? The idea that, hey, the regional banks, they may not be as good for you. You can hold your funds directly with the central bank, and the central bank is the safest. It's the central bank. It's not what they say. Sometimes it's what they don't say. Regarding privacy, Labor notes that perspectives on this issue vary from culture to culture. Again, this is going to be another piece of signal. For example, in China, only 1/10 of respondents to Deutsche Bank's survey expressed concern about anonymity and traceability. What that tells me is the indoctrination has gone very well. The brainwashing has worked. Look at that. 1 in 10. Come on. It's 10%. That's nothing. That's absolutely nothing. That's all that actually cares about their anonymity and traceability. Everybody else just shutting up and going along with it. 90%, guys. That's a lot. Anyways, finish up the article. People in advanced economies are more concerned about privacy, the survey indicated. Now, I think what's very important, the way that they're wording these things, okay, because let's be honest, right? China, Sweden, like, they're not quote unquote advanced economies. China is one of the biggest economies in the world. And all of a sudden, somehow, a different economy is known to be an advanced economy? No. Again, that's just some very, very strange wording, okay? But really what it is that countries that are more geared towards personal freedom, they care about anonymity and privacy. If you have a culture that supports and validates personal freedom, then yes, the people on average in that country are going to be more likely to appreciate anonymity and privacy. So look, guys, I mean, I do think that this is somewhat bullish, right? I mean, obviously all of this attention is indeed bullish. As I've said before, as any of us that pay attention to Bitcoin say, Bitcoin doesn't give a shit, right? It really doesn't care. But what's important is that we pay attention to the story that they're telling us, that these quote unquote, I'm just going to group them all together, the central planners are telling us. And the story is that it looks that this space is and can be very profitable. And the banking institutions, they've realized that this is now their entry point. So, look, as always, this is why I don't try to time the market. I've been seeing a lot of tweets, people still waiting for 10K, guys. I know that feeling. And I just want to remind everyone, back in the last bear market, there were certain very big influencers that were telling you that Bitcoin was going to go to 1,700. Okay. Never went to 1,700. The lowest we ever went was approximately 3,300, I believe it was. Even during the beginning of even when Bitcoin quote unquote failed the COVID test. Okay, we only went back to like 4,500. We never saw those levels. We never saw the 1,700s. We never saw the 2,700s. So all the people that thought they were listening to experts, right? And the reality is they were listening to some people who have been in this space, for at this point now almost 10 years. So they definitely feel that they're listening to a trusted source, and they got wrecked. So you know what? If you are purchasing Bitcoin, okay, the best thing you can do is not to over leverage yourself. And as fellow Bitcoiner and pleb, Vikingo always likes to say, stay solvent. That does it for us today, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Help us fight the evil YouTube algorithm, and I will catch you all tomorrow.